Melody.
Hello, how are you?
Good. First of all, I want to say congratulations for beating cancer.
Thank
It's
you.
a amazing accomplishment, and
Thank
I
you.
admire the way you got your diagnosis, you figured it out, and you went through it, and you actually let everyone else know through documenting it through,
Yep.
your social media. And
Yes.
I thought it was very impressive the way you handled it. Probably handling it much better than I could have handled it.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you. Yeah, I very much appreciate you showing love on my page,
right.
Melody's Fight, and everything. Really beyond blessed. Because we've known each other since elementary school, so it's been a long time.
Yeah,
I appreciate it.
yeah, of course. Let's start from the beginning. Tell
Okay.
me about your journey through cancer. And what I mean by that is, when did you figure out your diagnosis? What was going on?
Yeah.
And just we could start from there.
Okay, for sure. So it was 2021.
Right.
Around, I'm going to say April, May, I started having, so to back up for a sec, I had Hodgkin's lymphoma. So I guess the precursors or the things that you see as triggers where people are like, oh, I had a lymph in my neck, like the swollen lymph node or something. I didn't have that. Hodgkin's is one of those where it has like silent growers
Mm-hmm.
that you don't know. So if you're a smoker, okay, you're like lung cancer. But this, very weird. So I started sweating and it was sporadic, but it was profuse sweating at night. Like I would wake up and the ring in my shirt drenched, and it would
Right.
be so weird. And my dad had the same thing, but at that time we had just gotten our COVID vaccine. So, and that was one of the side effects, you could sweat, whatever. So we're like, cool, no problem. And at the time, for the past like few months, I was going to my physician because I had low iron, which we later found out was one of the, triggers to that. Yeah, so we kept going, and then I had insanity itching. Like at night, when I tell you itching, I don't have nails. Like I would scab myself. That was another thing. Like my body would just go. And when I would tell my doctor about it, he's like, oh, just put on lotion. I'm like, I put on lotion. And the sweating, everything was that. And then I went on a trip to New York and I started sweating there. So I'm like, okay, it's not the weather, it's not the vaccine anymore. This is something.
Mhm.
And then
How long were you in New York?
just like a week,
Okay.
max 2 weeks.
Nice.
I hadn't told my doctor that I was sweating at night yet. I hadn't seen him yet. Everything was itching, dry body, and just that. And then when I was going for my checkup for my low iron, he's like, okay, cool. Do you have any other questions? I was like, complete afterthought. Like something came over me. Tell him, I'm like, oh, by the way, I'm sweating at night. He's like, what do you mean? I was like, I'm sweating. He's like, okay, one sec. Let's do a chest x-ray. This is September 2021. Do the chest x-ray, think nothing about it. We're leaving. I'm literally about to do my copay. He's like, come back. And I was like, what is happening right now? And he's like, I see something in your chest, but it's an x-ray. Don't know what it is. We need to get a biopsy. And imagine in that moment in time, I'm like, what is happening and everything. So we do the biopsy where they take a sample, and then I get a call where they're like, okay, you need to come in. And that's like the worst call you could get,
Right.
because your mind can go this way or that way.
Right. Yeah.
So I was like, great, love this for me. So I go with my dad that day, and my doctor is like, okay, so this could be cancer. I'm saying this story in very much different places, and I feel like I might confuse people, but basically it was that we saw something, chest x-ray, we do 2 biopsies
Right.
because we had to do a second one. And then the guy who was doing my biopsies, the thoracic surgeon, he was like, yo, so it could be 4 of these cancers. Your best bet is Hodgkin's. And imagine like hearing that message, like bricks being thrown at me, and I'm like, okay. So that's when, so from the moment of saying like it could be these type of cancers to finally being diagnosed, it was such a dark period for me. But yeah, that was my journey of diagnosis. Then we can go through it more. Yeah.
Absolutely. What would you say was the most difficult part of figuring out your diagnosis?
Honestly, the hardest part was the unknown period.
Mm-hmm.
where I didn't know what type of cancer I had. The day I got diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma was the most relieving day of my life, where even the doctors were surprised. They're like, "You're the happiest person to be diagnosed." I'm like, "Yeah, imagine you're in this state of unknown where you're thinking about death, you're thinking about everything that you've seen in media about cancer."
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, you're telling me this is curable, this is treatable. Great. I know my game plan. Like, let's get it done. So yeah, that's how I felt. That was the scariest, most I guess uncomfortable part of my time
I
beyond
see.
the chemo.
So when you had that diagnosis, you figured out what the issue was.
Yeah,
Lay out the plan that they had for you.
yeah, exactly. Once I got Hodgkin lymphoma, from that point they're like, okay, where do you want to get treated? And there were few hospitals that were offered to, like, names. They're like, okay, you want to go to USC Keck, which where I got my biopsies. Love USC Keck. Glendale Memorial because it's local, or City of Hope. And I had heard of City of Hope when I was a kid, because Disney Channel would do like these concerts with Miley and Jonas Brothers. Literally, that's all I knew about City of
Mm-hmm.
Hope. And then, so I work in the music business. And then when I would ask people's opinion, they're like, "Oh, that's the music hospital. Like, you have to go there." I'm like, "What? What does that mean?" And then I was like, "Okay, they have like an orientation type thing. If you want to go, check it out. If you want to be a patient, there I go." And I suddenly see coworkers' names on that wall, like bosses. But I'm like, "Okay, this is a sign. Let me figure it out." And every single person said City of Hope. Once I figured that out, got my game plan, I got in. It was the best decision I ever made, because shout out to my oncologist, Dr. Herrera. He's a award-winning oncologist that he created.
Mm-hmm.
Let's backtrack. Not created, but like, he runs the immunotherapy program that I did at City of Hope. So I felt in good hands. I never felt uncomfortable. I never felt like it's I'm going into scary waters right now. He was very straight up with me from the beginning, and that's the best thing to have in a doctor, where it's like the bedside manners is the number one thing, that you're making the patient feel comfortable even though it's the scariest moment of their life, but you're assuring them that we have your back, which is like the number one thing to have.
I see.
Yeah.
So it's good that, Dr. Herrera, as you're saying,
Yeah.
he had good bedside manners.
100%.
What do you think the experience would have been if he wasn't that Let's say he was a great doctor, but bad bedside manners.
During that time, I actually did experience someone with bad bedside manners. Not gonna say who.
Right.
But when I say bad bedside manners, it's delivering a message. Like, I know you take the job as a doctor, as a nurse. If doctors and nurses are listening out there, I know, like, you see different stories, different things. And obviously, you always have to give the patient good news and bad news. When you're giving the bad news, like, let's, slow it down. Like, I had a doctor, I had a nurse where they're like, "No, like, there's a chance where we have to, like, crack your chest open if this biopsy doesn't go well." I know legally maybe they have to say that, so it's like, God forbid if it happens, like, I'm not blindsided. Same with the nurse. I'm like, "It's gonna go well, right?" They're like, "I don't know why people tell you that. Like, yeah, it'll go well, but there's also a chance of XYZ." I'm like, "Okay, bro, like, you could have just said, like,
Right.
everything's gonna be fine."
Right.
So if my oncologist was like, I would hope my anxiety would be through the roof. Probably.
So I think it's important to say the good and the bad, but I think the way you deliver the message makes all the difference.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I got bad news from my physician of, "Yeah, I have cancer." Bad news. But the way he said it to me, it was with a blanket over that. It's like, "It's gonna be okay." And at the time we didn't know what cancer it was. He's like, "We're in this together."
Mhm.
Like, not leaving your side. I'm getting every update. If anything comes in, I'm calling you. You're calling me. So it's that reassurance that a patient needs, the most important thing. No matter how many patients you have. Dr. Herrera, like, insane to get an appointment with him. But it's like, when he was talking to me, felt like
It was
one on
just you and
one.
him.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
So when you got your diagnosis, you visited a doctor.
Yeah.
Walk me through what happened after that. Was it chemotherapy?
Yeah. So at the time, it was still peak pandemic. Some people were getting vaccinated not. So I couldn't have anybody with me except at City of Hope, only for my orientation and if I was signing documents. So every other time, just want to note, I was alone up until like after I finished chemo, going into immunotherapy.
Mm.
How it works is, okay, you go to your first appointment. Hey, what's up? I'm Dr. Herrera. You have Hodgkin's lymphoma. This is the stage. He shows me my scan. Like it's a little picture where it's like what's in my chest that's growing. And he's like, okay, so you have a choice. We're doing chemo, 6 rounds, and you want to do radiation, or you want to do this thing called immunotherapy, which you have to sign papers for because it's still it's FDA approved, but you're in a clinical trial
Oh,
for
I
the
see. Yeah,
hospital.
it's still in studies.
So I was like, I was already going for immunotherapy because I have some doctors in my family that I consulted with them and even with my physician. But he said to people out there who've done radiation, I didn't do it because I had a 20 to 25% chance of getting breast cancer if I did that. I'm like, I'm good. Got one. Don't want it again. So I did immunotherapy. So it was 6 rounds, so 6 times chemo, and it was bi-weekly every 2 weeks. And then I did 8 rounds of immunotherapy. I started day before Thanksgiving 2021. So it was my dad's birthday, November 24th. And to give insight on chemo, it's literally a work day, 8 hours.
Yeah, yeah.
I was there 7 a.m. for labs. You see the doctor. The labs are like, they check your kidneys, okay, everything before you do it.
Right.
Even before that, you have to do like a heart test. You have to do a lung test. That the chemicals that they're put in your body,
It's a
like
very strenuous process.
very.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, they're like, you're very young to do this heart test. I'm like, okay, let's do it. So you start treatment, and yeah, so it was like my dad dropping me off, him staying in the parking lot for 6 hours, 7 hours, lab, doctor, and then it's chemo. And then the chemo itself is 6 hours because the drip that they put, each bag is a different time frame. So the longest one is like 2 hours, but they medicate you up and they knock you out, preferably for me, that I just would sleep. But yeah, that's the process. So I finished June 1st, 2022. But imagine every 2 weeks, Wednesdays would be my days. My recovery days, Thursday, Friday. I was an outpatient, so I was not staying overnight. So yeah, it's a whole thing.
And then during that time, I'm sure you had to have some changes in your diet, correct?
100%.
Yeah.
So that was not that I would eat junk food. Like I was never like soda, that occasional, but I would shout out my oncologist again that he let me live my life where he's like, the only thing I had to give up, unfortunately, was sushi because you can't have raw meat, raw fish, because when you're in chemo,
yeah.
your white blood cell count goes down, so your immune system is shot. So you have to be very careful. So that the mercury and stuff could be a risk. Same with like raw eggs and stuff. So that was the only thing, but I had vegan sushi. But everything else I could have. He just said in like livable portions, if that makes sense. He's like, don't go overboard. So, but my diet did change. I had to do a high protein because I had lost weight before the cancer was basically eating away at my body. And that was another thing that I told my doctor, and I was boxing at the time. He's like,
Oh, you were boxing?
yeah,
Oh,
I was
didn't know,
boxing.
actually.
Yeah.
Did you compete
Melody
in
Money
everything?
would-
Or?
No.
Oh, okay.
Imagine me competing. I would be knocked out.
Yeah.
No, Melody Money Mayweather.
Right.
Yeah. No, I wanted to do a cardio, so I was boxing for almost a year before I got
Nice.
diagnosed. And yeah, that was one of the things. I'm like, I am losing weight rapidly. So my normal weight, I will say it's like 122 to 125. I was like 117. I was like, okay. And then my doctor's like, you need to eat more protein. You're boxing. The day I was starting chemo, I was 107, 111. That is very skinny for me. So when I was in chemo, high protein diet, eggs, whenever I could eat, my stomach was shot like post chemo days. Like I could barely eat anything because it's like you just
I know
feel
you have a lot of
disgusting.
nausea. Yeah, that
Yeah,
happens.
was throwing up, disgusting. But when I could, that's when it's be like mashed potatoes, like carbs, whatever, to keep my stomach intact.
Yeah.
But other than that, I know people say like, oh, sugar is the devil when you're in cancer treatment. Overall, I didn't have that much sugar in my life prior, but I could enjoy it if I wanted to. If I want ice cream, I could have it. They were totally open with it. Yeah.
I see. It's good that they you didn't have to modify your lifestyle to a crazy amount, you know?
100%. There are people who do that, to each their own, like
Right.
juicing, whatever. Do your thing. But because I was losing so much, I had to gain a lot. So I was like, okay, what do I need to implement during the days that I could eat where it's benefiting my body? But my doctor would say, listen, if your stomach's open and the only thing that will change, like the taste in your mouth or something, is a bar of ice cream, have the ice cream. It's not going to kill you. But yeah, that was the point.
So in the process where you were, I think, underweight,
Yeah.
how long did it take for you to the process of going from underweight to normal weight?
That's a good question. Honestly, during chemo, like I was still skinny, but I was gaining my weight back
Yeah.
slowly but surely. But at the same time, it's like my body's fighting for so much. They're like, okay, babe, you want to fight your immune system. We're shooting this down. We're shooting that down. But by the time when I was finishing up chemo, which was mid-March, I was like, my cheeks were being full again, and people would notice that I'm gaining my normal weight again.
Right.
Because I would always get the comment, they're like, "You're not eating." I'm eating. Like
Right.
it was my grandma was feeding me. I'm like, no, I have food. But yeah, it was scary. Now when I look back at pictures, yeah, I had a nurse tell me, she's like, "What's your secret that I lost weight?" I'm like, the cancer.
Yeah.
The cancer. It's such a good diet plan. Yeah, so I gained it back like this. Now I'm back at my normal weight. I'm like 124, 125.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. So you had 6 rounds of chemo, you said?
Yeah, 6 rounds of chemo, 8 immunotherapy.
8 immunotherapy. Do you feel yourself progressively getting better after each round, or is it the same
That's a good-
uncomfortable feelings?
I mean, during time of chemo, so to explain to people the side effects, it's different for everyone. Like I had a person that I spoke to that he was diagnosed with Hodgkin's. He was finishing up. He literally didn't get nausea until like his last 2 treatments, which was insane. But for me, I had chemo, my first one. The next day, I felt great. I was like, oh my God, I'm not nauseous. But they gave me pills and everything. They're like, yo, if it hits the fan, this is what you got to take.
Right.
Everything. Okay. I felt good. I'm like, Mom, Dad, like, I'm ready to feast. Like, I was hungry. Complete 180 happened right when I hit the 24-hour mark
Uh-oh.
of leaving chemo. Immediate nausea. I threw up. And you're not throwing up anything because your body's like, I don't have much stuff in my stomach.
Right.
So that's what's happening. And then Thursday, Friday, nausea. Saturday, by Sunday, I was back to normal as if I didn't do chemo. And then that whole regular week of my life, I was fine. I was eating whatever I wanted, blah, blah, blah. Then when you're the day before chemo, I had to be careful what I ate. They would tell me, like, don't eat heavy stuff. Like, don't eat, like, a full carb type of thing to, I guess, generate the nausea.
Yes.
But it didn't matter. Every time I had chemo, at that point, my body got adjusted to having nausea. So it was triggered. Like, it knew when I was getting to the hospital. I'm not even joking. Like, when I was waiting for my labs and stuff, I was, like, gagging, but not throwing up. Just the sensation of gagging. And, but when I would get to the bedside, when they would, like, hook me up and everything, because they
Yeah.
would give you Benadryl, I started throwing up. And I was like, I don't know why I'm throwing up. I was apologizing to the nurses. I don't know why. They're like, it's fine. We see
Right.
this all the time.
Yeah.
But my body knew. And then immunotherapy is completely 180 of chemo. Again, there are side effects. But for me, thankfully, knock on wood, after the first 2, it was a breeze. It was a 30-minute, 45-minute injection. But the first 2, because my body was so pent up and it knew where we were, I would throw up at immuno. Like, they would give bags. But then by the 3rd time, when I guess my body knew, like, okay, we're fine, this is different, would not throw up. When I would get home, as if nothing. Like, oh, I did an injection, I'm home, I could eat whatever I want. So it was very interesting what my body can tell.
So were you doing, I know 6 rounds
Yeah.
chemo, 8 rounds immunotherapy. Were you doing it interchangeably?
No, so you do full 6 chemo
Yeah.
every 2 weeks. So I started November, stopped mid-March. Then I went to Coachella. That was like the biggest thing my oncologist let me do.
Nice.
Yeah.
I
So I was like,
that.
period. Yeah, I was like, it's so hot, you're fine. Then I started immunotherapy because you need a break between chemo and immunotherapy. I forget, like, whatever it was. And then that was also every 2 weeks, and it stopped June 1st. And actually, my first immunotherapy or second one, that's when I could have a guest with me. So that's when my dad started coming. My mom was at home, like preparing everything when I got home, like whatever I needed.
Mm.
But yeah, that's
Like
when I went.
cooking meals and things, or
Yeah,
what?
yeah, whatever, preparing. Like,
Oh, I
because it's
see.
like, it was always a game plan coming home. Like, okay, I would immediately knock out. Everything had to be my medication, everything.
Oh,
So
yes. Yeah.
so the house was ready. But yes, so shout out to all the nurses, the doctors, because I couldn't have anyone there with me. It was really like a solo battle, but I never felt alone because the nurses, honestly, the heroes of the world, that they would, especially at City of Hope,
Sure.
because it's
Yeah.
a cancer hospital, so that's all they see.
Sure. Yeah.
That they're really with the patient and everything. So yeah.
That's, that sounds like a very strenuous journey.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. When I look back on it, I know people, including you, you've asked me like how I did it. I had no other choice. That it's like I had to have a positive mindset. So to your question, it's like, yeah, what got me through it? Of course, the treatment. Of course, the doctors. But everyone would tell me like, it's this too. Like,
It's your brain. Yeah. It's your mindset.
what you're
Yeah.
doing. So I immersed myself only things that made me happy. So music, shows that I love, movies I loved. Because the worst thing I did was watch Squid Game when I was waiting for my diagnosis. That was the worst thing I
Yeah.
did, like the most low point of my life. But this helped too.
Hmm.
That if I was going in like, oh yeah, f this, like this isn't gonna work. Of course, it could have an effect, because your body responds to emotions, mentally, everything. When people say it's your temple, it
Hmm.
is.
It is. Yeah. Yeah. Uh, what role do you think that? What role do you think your family played in all of this?
Wow, that's a great question. Yeah, another thing, medication, my mental state, and my friends and family. So it doesn't have to be family by blood, could be friends. Um, the support was everything, because again, you could you could be 100%, but people around you, they're like, if they were always affecting you in a negative way, it'll affect the patient in a way. So my parents didn't really show their emotion, which I know was for the better, obviously. Like
Yeah.
every time they would come in, would they like cry? But I did have sometimes when I first got diagnosed, like family members would look at me like like a look where it's like, oh my god, I'm like, I'm not dying, I'm fine.
Yeah.
But 100%. People like you, when I tell you, people came out of the woodwork when I posted about this. And that was one thing people warned me about, that I could lose friends from this. I could lose family members from this, because unfortunately, some people, like, their support system is different, where some people just don't show love, show support. But I was lucky enough that even people that I didn't talk to since high school, since middle school, they literally, they texted me. They were like, if you need anything, let me know and I will be there. I was like, oh my God, okay, thank you.
Yeah. I had a lot of admiration for you through the whole
Thank
journey
you.
because you were very like you were very assertive through the process.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why I created Melody's Fight,
Huh.
because I knew people were gonna. By the way, a lot of people found out through social media, because how does one deliver that they have cancer? Honestly, the people who knew beforehand that I got diagnosed, it wasn't like a favoritism thing where I'm like, oh yeah, I told her before you. No, it was
No.
because it doesn't come up in a conversation to be like, oh my God, how are you? By the way,
Yeah.
I have cancer.
Yeah.
So it's just people that I was talking to, and it would just come up in a update, life update. So when I posted it on socials, I knew I wanted to make a page, one, because I couldn't find the page to help me. That I was like, okay, what the hell is Hodgkin lymphoma? I found one page. Rest in peace to her. She passed. I was like, okay, this doesn't help
Oh
me.
wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
This
Wow.
does. I shouldn't laugh. I'm laughing in regards to awkwardness, but that didn't help me. And I was like, then I was researching. I'm like, why is this so common into like 18 to 29-year-olds? I was diagnosed when I was 25, going into 26. I was like, the guy that was diagnosed was the same age as me, and then a few months later, a girl that went to USC too, that guy too, we were diagnosed with Hodgkin's. We're like, why? What's going on? So I created Melody's Fight for my friends and family. So it's like, you want updates, it's all there. you know what it is. And also for people that are going through this, that they just want information, whether you're the patient, whether you're the caregiver, you know what's up. I got messages like that. I got a girl messaging me from Germany. She's like, I'm stage 4. This is what I'm going through. Do you have a similar thing? And even though we aligned on some things medication wise, like it was very eye-opening experience to learn about people's experiences. And yeah, that's what I wanted to do and just share, because it can only help the person, never hurt the person that's reading it.
I see.
Yeah.
No, it's great that you did make that page, because I personally felt like I was going through the
Yeah.
journey with
And
you
your
when I
guys'
was,
support got me through it.
yeah.
Prayers, comments. So I genuinely had that with me through every treatment where I'm like, okay, these people have my back.
So, is there any lifestyle changes that you made when you had cancer that follow you right now that you still kept?
Yes. I work out. So before that, I whatever did
Weren't
not work
working
out.
out? Yeah.
Wanted to. I went back into boxing after I finished chemo. I have unfortunately stopped. I would like to go back. I just don't have time.
Sure.
But I work out. I am more cautious about sugar overall. Again, I didn't have it that much before, but I'm very cautious that it's like I look at labels now. And the most important lifestyle change that I've done is my skincare, my makeup routine, that really implementing clean, where it was a complete game changer when I found out so many products have like carcinogens and just cancer causing elements. So there's this app that I use, Clearia, so it's Clear YA. It was created by a cancer survivor and her husband. When they found out, they're like, oh my god, there's so much stuff that we shouldn't put in our, whether it be shampoo, body wash, a moisturizer. So it's very cool. You just type in the product on whatever Amazon, Sephora, whatever store, and it scans the ingredients for me, and it lets me know if it's safe for me to use. So it's the biggest change that I've done.
No, that's great. I like that.
Yeah. And my hair. That's the biggest change. Yeah, great app, highly recommended. I use it. And like Honest Beauty, the cream that I posted about, that saved my skin, because one of the side effects of chemo is you get dry skin. I already had dry skin. So that moisturizer saved me. And when I posted about it, that they invited me to do like a campaign for them, it was very nice because they wanted real people. And I remember you asked me about this in the DMs. It was basically, I was literally buying my moisturizer again. And on the banner, it was like, share your story about this cream, if it changed anything in your life. And I did. I was like, it saved my skin. And that day, I met the CEO because she wanted to hear my story. And she's like, hey, I just want to let you know that one of my friends is going through cancer treatment. And did this actually help you? I was like, listen, if you weren't the CEO right now, I was talking to RMA Hakopian or whatever, I would genuinely recommend this product for cancer patients because it's clean, it's effective, and it helps people. And she's like, okay, and we're going to implement the app more because they really stand by clean, and they want to make sure that they're clean and not just like, sweeping it under the rug just for the
Monetary
yeah, exactly. So plug.
I love that. No,
Yeah.
that's great. What is the biggest stereotype that people think about others who have cancer?
That's a good one. I guess looks wise, so that stereotype where it's like you're gonna go full bald, you lose your head. Like, okay, I did not fully lose my hair. I look like a electrocuted potato. Like I still had that. I didn't have the full cancer look. Another stereotype is, I guess, thinking like once you have cancer, it's terminal. Like
Right.
you're a goner. No, every cancer is different. I was very lucky enough that I was stage 2, so it was early on. So it wasn't obviously intense treatment, but maybe not as prolonged. Yeah. Other than that, that's stereotype. Probably just like your life changes. Yes. Do you have to cut out sugar? No. That's the biggest thing. Biggest stereotype where it's like sugar is the devil, blah blah blah. Cut it out. I would say no, that is not true. Like you could still have sugar stuff, but in portions. Yeah. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, yeah. With things that happen to us in life, cancer or any other major life event,
Totally.
people usually take two paths, religiously or spiritually.
Correct.
One way of looking at it is, okay, God put me in this position to have cancer.
Yeah.
You take two paths. one path is you feel hatred or rage, or you just feel contempt towards God
Yeah,
for
yeah.
putting you in that position, and
Yes.
you're not happy about it. And then the other path is you grow closer to God because you want something to cling
Yeah.
on to that's a higher power than yourself, because you think that you can't handle it and you need an intervention into your life.
Yeah.
Um, I want to know, before your cancer diagnosis,
Yes.
were you religious? And has that changed after your cancer diagnosis and being treated and healed?
Yes. Okay, so I love this question. So before, uh, religious is a very broad term. It's like, what does it means? Something different to people. So
Sure,
I am Christian.
sure.
But I don't go to church every Sunday. I don't wear a cross and stuff, not for any reason. But my grandma is the most religious person in my family. But ever since I was little, I pray every night before bed. That is just my thing. It gives me peace. That whatever I want to pray about, it's like,
Yeah,
thank
my
you, God.
mom does that too.
Yeah, it's like, very quick. It's not
Yeah,
like I'm taking out a book or the Bible or something. I'm just
right,
like, thank God for a great day. You know, bye.
right.
Go to sleep. Um, so that, and my friends and I would make the jokes where I was God's strongest soldier. I was called to war for this moment, for this battle. And I firmly believe that everything does happen for a reason. I know whether good or bad, of course. And it's like stages of grief, you know, how they're like, there's anger, there's emotion, there's a same thing with this, with cancer. It's like, of course, there was anger, not at anyone or anything specific, but it's like, why is this happening to me? For sure came into my mind. When I talked about that unknown period, everything was spiraling through my head where I'm like, I'm gonna die. Oh my God, I need to prepare everything. Also, why is this happening to me?
Mm-hmm.
But I would say, weirdly enough, I'm thankful that this happened to me because it's changed my life for the better. And during the unknown period, I went to church, as I mentioned to you before the show, that the Central Church in Glendale, shout out, I would go light a candle during the time when they're like, it could be this cancer. I prayed to have Hodgkin's lymphoma, got that. So during my scans before, I would go pray that everything's gonna come out clear, clean, whatever it needed to be. Same thing during each milestone, pray.
Mm-hmm.
And but everyone, when I would get comments, whoever was religious, I'm praying for you, I'm sending a prayer. My grandma would go to church, ask like the priest to send a prayer. Even if you're spiritual, I have coworkers who are spiritual,
Mm-hmm.
where they're Reiki healers. I took anything and everything. As long as you're not sending me bad vibes, bad blood, I took it, you know, because it could mean anything to anyone. And I feel like after treatment, yeah, I am still the same. I still pray. I'm thankful to God. Like I believe, as you said, in a higher power. Whatever people want to label that as,
Sure.
God is a woman, God is whatever you want to believe. I do believe there is some higher power up there that is helping me through this journey of life, whether it be professionally, personally. Yeah, and it's brought me. It's really made me open my eyes into different things where I'm like, oh my God, okay, like manifestation. Really believe in that, speaking into existence.
Would you say the power of your prayer has helped you through your journey of
Yeah,
chemotherapy?
yeah,
Because there are studies that people that implement prayer when they're
yeah,
going through cancer,
yeah.
they have better outcomes.
I 100% believe in that. Like, again, whatever religion was praying for me, and me as a Christian praying for that, I
Mm-hmm.
took it and I believe it. That, again, mental state helped me, the treatment helped me, but the power of the prayer, this love from people, whether it be behind the screen, in person, or just a simple message to me, that was with me, that really helped me go into remission and get that cancer free message.
So it seems to me that cancer is a very relational thing because you don't go through it alone. Uh,
Done.
eh,
And it's
y-
up to the patient if they want to go through it alone or if they want people with them.
right.
Yeah.
Yes. Uh, which brings me to ask how, because I think about it in two ways. How is there, how do you recommend friends and family or, support
Yes.
anyone through this journey?
Mm-hmm.
And what is something you recommend they don't do? Is there something that
Okay,
people
RMA
say
reports. These are
is
such good. I
uh,
love these questions. No, that's a
like
good one. Let me think about it.
yeah, is there something that they say that they think they're doing the right thing, but it's actually hurtful and they shouldn't be saying they're doing those things? Um,
Yeah, no. That's
yeah.
it. I have been asked this question before. I was actually asked about this in therapy. So I did therapy before I was in treatment, and
Oh,
it
okay.
was the
Nice.
best thing I did before that, and it really helped me because I don't know where I would be if I didn't have the tools that I got from my therapist, which
Sure.
I'm still with her today.
Nice.
Um, what I wouldn't have people do, I guess, like check in so much that it's like if I feel comfortable, I didn't have this issue. That some people, I felt weird. I'm like, why aren't they checking in on me? Like, this is my close friend. Like, why aren't they checking in on me? And then I had to kind of step back and be like, okay, this was really heavy for them too to get that news where a close person to them has been diagnosed with this. So,
Mm.
and some of these friends did come to me after when I was in remission. They're like, I'm really sorry. Like, I just didn't know how to talk to you. And that's the one thing I would tell people. Don't treat a cancer patient differently. That's my answer. Don't treat them like, don't look at them like, oh my god, let me ask, you know what I mean? Like, if someone's in terminal, god forbid, or
Uh,
just going through cancer treatment, I'm still the same person. I'm still the same Melody. You could talk to me about whatever. You could make the same jokes. I think that's what I would do. Like, don't change
so
anything.
you're a victor, not a victim.
Period. Yeah.
Right.
How
I
Oprah
love
would
that.
say, were you silent or silenced? Yeah, don't change anything how you would speak to me. Listen, I would make the most effed up jokes and they're like, Melody. I'm like, okay, this is how I cope. Sarcasm is how I cope. Other than that, it's like, if I didn't have the page, I would tell people like, okay, just check in on me, like maybe every bi-weekly too. Like, you don't have to be very mothering, which I appreciate,
Right.
but just give me the space that I need. But no one was pushy, so I think that would be my advice. Just don't change how you talk to me because I'm still the same person. I'm just bald.
Right.
Which would surprise people because it was beanie era, so people would be like, oh my god, I forgot you were bald.
Right.
I'm like, it's okay.
And then what's something? So that's something they shouldn't do. What do you think? There's something that they should do.
Check on the person 100%. And I did have conversations with some of my friends that I feel like were not there for me in a sense that I wish they would have been. But again, I spoke about this in therapy where I'm a person that gives my, whatever you want to say, love language. Like, I'm there for a person. I will get you whatever you need. I put thought into it. So it's like when some wasn't reciprocated to me during like the most dire moment of my life, which people said this would be a moment in time where you would see who your real friends are and who aren't. And trust me, I did realize who my real friends are.
Yeah.
And relationships have changed, not to the point where I'm like, I'm not your friend anymore, but how I will put in the time and effort for you in the future. Yeah, that would be the only thing. And I did talk to those people where I'm like, hey, I wish you were there for me more. And it doesn't mean like I need a gift, I need money, I need, you know what I mean? It's like just checking in on me, just doing a, I don't know if this is the right term, drive by, where it's like, just
Right.
how are you? Because I couldn't see people, so even like a call, that's it. Just different efforts. That's what I'm saying. When people came out of the woodwork on Instagram, I'm telling you, people from middle school and high school would check in on me from time to time, being like, "Hey, I just wanted." I'm like, "Oh my god, thank you so much."
Just out of curiosity, you don't have to answer
Yeah.
if you don't want to. But when you told people, the people that you
Yeah.
know, you
That was
when you
diagnosed.
told people that were diagnosed and they weren't there for you
Yeah.
as much as you wanted them to be,
Mm-hmm.
what was their response?
They realized it was only like 2, 3 of my friends, and some I didn't even want to waste my breath saying it to some that I even haven't said to this day, where it's like, you
Forget about it.
what's
Right.
the, you forgive, you forget, but you
Yeah.
never let it go. Taylor Swift lyric.
Right.
A Kendrick lyric. But yeah, when I told them, they realized. They were like, in retrospect, they're like, I know. And that's when I found out where some of them, they're like, I just didn't know how to handle this.
Yeah.
So I didn't know what I would do. And they were treading lightly. They're like, what do I do? What do I say? And I was like, I wish you just talk to me.
Mm-hmm.
And that was another thing that they're like, we didn't want to burden you with anything, which I completely understand. But when it's about relationships, then we can find the time to talk about it when I was recovering. But yeah, that is that. I'm sorry, I forgot the question. I hope I answered
No,
it.
you did answer.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
What if there's somebody watching this that's going through Hodgkin's lymphoma right now? What is the biggest piece of advice you'd give him or her?
Follow Melody's fight. I'm kidding. Yeah, follow that. But
Yeah. Do that too. But
yeah,
yeah.
immerse yourself in things that make you happy. So whatever that is to that person. For me, as I said, it was music. It was movies that I loved. It was friends. It was creating a playlist. I continued working where I wanted to keep my mind off of it. So
Wow, nice.
yeah, obviously I would take the days off that I needed, but I did not take like short-term disability or something. I could not do that. But
So why couldn't you do it?
I could. They offered it to me. It's just for me, even a person like me taking a vacation, I could only take it for so long until like I'm inching back to work. I'm a person that always needs to stay busy. Unfortunately, I'm not one of those people.
I have that too. Actually.
Yeah, I could only rest for so long, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I work to keep my mind off. So I would just tell the person, it's like immerse yourself in things that make you happy. Know that it is treatment. Surround yourself with people that you love, people that care about you, and the mental state. You need to go to therapy. Go to therapy. Try your best to be in a positive mindset. Of course, there are days where you're an emotional wreck. I was an emotional wreck. There's some days I'm crying my eyes out. That it's a roller coaster ride of emotions. But just know when you're at the dip, know there's a peak again. So you just need to know how to level yourself in the emotions of the dip to come back to the peak, because the dip is gonna come back again. You just need to prepare for it. Yeah.
I see. So it's a lot of peaks and valleys.
Yes.
Yeah.
Look at us giving like a Socrates quotes. I never thought I would have this conversation.
I actually didn't know that cancer is a lot of peaks and valleys.
Yeah.
To my misconception, you could say, I thought cancer is just a continuous dip until you get better,
It's
and then it's one valley.
Yeah.
So I didn't know it was really
Yeah.
peaks and valleys.
It's totally your choice as the patient on how you take the deck of cards that were
Given to you.
Like you're like, hit me. Okay, I got these cards. Now what do I do with it? And it's a total. I'm still going through it today, and it was the hardest when I finished treatment. Where I'm like, how do I go back to normal life? What is normal life? Because again, I was treated during the pandemic, so it was like I was very pent up. I was like, okay, I can't get sick. I can't, because I was masked all the time. So that was another mental game to go through. But yeah, and another thing, because I'm not sharing the emotional stuff on social media that much. It's like, yeah, I would write a sentence or two that this sucks or whatever, but I would always smile. So people didn't really know. And when I posted about it, people were like, why didn't you tell me? I'm like, I'm just not. Personally, for me, I don't know if you're the same. I am not emotional person to share like that. So it's hard for me.
You keep it more to yourself.
Yeah. More to myself, or like a specific group of people. Like me and my parents, we were always close, but we got really close during this because it's like they really saw me like ground zero to building myself back up again. But yeah, the jokes, the heart, the laughs, that's what got me through.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
You said earlier you're still going through it now.
Yeah.
And I think you said you're worried about getting sick still and things like this. Is there any other way you're still processing this now, or?
It's definitely alleviated. Not 100%. There's always things, but the first, until I hit my 1 year mark, I was on edge because I was like, I didn't get COVID. I got COVID actually for the first time when I was gonna have my first 6-month checkup. I was masked, everything. I went to a show. People can clock me for that. I don't care. But that was the one thing I missed, going to shows. But I was all like, got COVID. But that was the one thing my oncologist told me. It's like, listen, you're going back to work. I'm okay with that. You're going back into, just know like this can happen and you're gonna be okay. But you just need to have that in your thought. And when it happened, I had made it so dramatic in my head that, oh my God, but I was fine. You know, the medications there, people want to get vaccinated. Cool. I did. So that helped me too. And yeah, same thing. When I went to shows, I would still kind of be like on edge, but now I'm like, okay, this is the reality. It can happen again,
Yeah.
but we know the steps on how to take care of it. So I am fine now in that sense.
Nice. I love that. So what are you doing nowadays? Tell me.
So I'm back to work full time as I was during treatment, but I'm working. Uh, kind of looking at my next chapter in my life. So where I am at the point of my work right now, I'm at the step where to go to a next position. So I'm just looking what that next position is, where, when, what. Other than that, I'm continuing Melody's Fight. I'm part of the Future Hope Committee at City of Hope. So it's like young entertainment people, executives that help fundraise and stuff. So I want to be a part of that because I was in treatment, so I can give messaging. And yeah, as you know, with She's the Music, we help young girls, women of color, to get into the music industry. So it's just putting all my creative energy. I have a YouTube channel, Melody Reports, that I started in college, and that was one thing that got me through treatment, that it's like video reactions to songs and music videos. So that's what I continue. But yeah, just going to shows, living life. That's what I'm doing.
And I think actually when you were going through treatment, you were still posting on the Melody Reports.
Yeah, that was
very impressive.
That was one of the things that it's like got my mind off of it, where I'm like, okay, get my creative juices flowing. How can I do that? Okay, I'll still continue this. And I would wear wigs. I didn't have to, but it was kind of like the gag of the video, where it's like, oh, if I was shocked, I would like pull my wig and people didn't know I was bald. Yeah, so that was a fun thing that I would do, and I still do it. Yeah, other than that, it's just helping anyone that I can, but still living my life. And I honestly don't think about it that I went through treatment unless someone brings it up. I'm like, oh yeah, I went through that, because it's so in the back of my head.
Nice.
Yeah, I don't think about like, can it come back? I don't think about that because there's so much to live for that why would I pull myself down with those thoughts? It does hit my brain, but I kind of redirect my brain.
I love that.
Yeah.
I like how you're just moving forward.
Yes,
Yeah.
the best way.
Yeah, sometimes that's the only choice we have.
Yeah.
Not sometimes, all the time. That's the only choice we have.
Never backwards, only forward.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for coming on.
This was
I
so
appreciate
fun.
it.
Thank you for having me.
And I really wish you the best. And
thank you too.
I'm sure you'll be great.
Yes. Shout out to RMA Podcast, the crew that did this today, because I really appreciate it. And this is my first time that I'm really sharing my story on a platform. So it's going to help a lot of people.
So where can people find you?
So they could, I'll first plug at Melody's Fight on Instagram. And then they could find me on Instagram as well at Melody Reports. That is my personal. And if anyone's listening, knowing someone that's going through Hodgkin's, any type of cancer, and they just want to talk or they need advice or just direction, my DMs are always open. So yeah, that's where they can find me. And I'm always here.
Thank you, Melody.
Yes. Thank you. Yay. This was so fun.
Yeah.